is always good to greet, because we know that as circumstances in the earth begins to give us a glimpse of things that we might think are coming, we want to prepare knowing what the word of the living God has said. When we go into this Bible gives us a glimpse of a hope that we might set our confidence in Yahweh God. Because without that, we will begin to see that there's no particular way out of the darkness that is glooming in the earth. But at the same time, when we look and read this gracious and wonderful book that they call the Bible, we have something to put our trust in, knowing that if these things do not work out for us, then what things do we have to work out for us? If we go into Jeremiah 15, and like I said, the capacity of this book to explain, Jeremiah 15, the capacity of this book, verse 11.
Jeremiah 15, thou, yeah, and the Lord said, verily, verily, it shall be well with my remnant, virility. I will cause the enemy to entreat thee will in the time of evil, and entreated thee well in the time of evil. Affliction. It says, Yahweh said, verily, it shall be well with the remnant. He said, with the remnant. And that remnant is those that is stated that will begin their journey back home. He says, and it shall be well. He said, in the time of evil. It says, and Yahweh said, verily, it shall be well with the remnant. Verily, I will cause the enemy to entreat thee well in the time of evil and in the time of affliction. He says that these, he said, in the time of evil, this remnant that is stated, because when we came into America, we came to be destroyed. And we are destroyed people because what was our destruction? And we'll get back to that. See, is what destroyed us is what can awaken us. But you have to understand, what was your destruction? What caused you to have that title put on you? And my people were destroyed. Destroyed for what? What did they do? What transpired for this great destruction? So Yahweh God said in the book, he said, and the remnant shall be treated well. Why the remnant? Because Yahweh said in Isaiah 10, verse 22, for though it says, for though the people Israel be as the sands of the sea, yet a remnant of them shall return. 10, Isaiah 10, verse 22. So he said this remnant, and the remnant is beginning to return, because the remnant has come to understand what was the circumstances that had befallen them. In this remnant, the circumstances that befall them, they have begun to understand how to put the puzzle back together, because now that they realize what shattered the puzzle is what they need to put the puzzle back. And what was that? He says in Hosea chapter 4, verse 6, it says, my people are destroyed for what? A lack of knowledge. Hosea chapter 4, verse 6, he said, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. So we are acquiring this knowledge again that is making sense to us by Yahweh being selective and who he's going to give this to. See,
He said, because when we look in the book of, let's go in the book of Isaiah. Let's go in the book of Isaiah 28, 27.
28?
28, wait, 28. 28, Isaiah 28, verse 9.
Whom shall he teach knowledge?
It says, whom shall he teach knowledge? Because the whom is related to the that God is going to be selective. He said, whom shall he teach knowledge? Because this is a selective thing. He said, because it was the knowledge that destroyed you. He said, my people were destroyed, what? For a lack of this knowledge. So the point is, for the lack of the knowledge that the people were being destroyed by, Yahweh has says, whom shall I teach knowledge? Whom shall I make to understand doctrine? He told him, he says, I want to, this is on a selective basis, because Israel, the remnant of Israel, is being saved. Not all of Israel, because all of Israel came to be destroyed. So being that all of Israel came to be destroyed, Yahweh God is taking a selective few. And the point in this selective few, he is raising them up to give them something that they can begin to exercise themselves in. And therefore, when we look to find what is God doing, we go to the New Testament, 1 Corinthians chapter 22. So Yahweh God is giving us this knowledge again.
Chapter what?
Chapter 1, verse 22 of 1 Corinthians.
Okay. Chapter 1, verse what?
22. Chapter 1, verse 22.
For the
Jews
Jews require a
sign,
and a speak
seek
after whom?
wisdom. So he said the Jews it said the Jews required a sign. He said they were looking for a sign. And because they were destroyed for this knowledge. And therefore, the knowledge that the sign that they were looking for, we can go into Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy.
Chapter
28. Deuteronomy chapter 28. Deuteronomy chapter 28.
Verse?
Okay. Verse 40.
40.
Okay, 46.
And they shall be upon thee for a sign, and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
So what was the sign? He said, this sign will be upon your seed forever. If we go back to see the sign, he said the sign was in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 1. Verse 1.
Command thee.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 1.
And it shall come to
Wait, go ahead. You want to read it?
And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken
Diligently
unto the voice of the Yahweh God, to
Observe
and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Yahweh God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
And it said, and all these blessings shall come upon thee and overtake thee. In other words, he said, he didn't say he will put you above all churches. He said he will put you above all nations of the earth. He said, and it shall come to pass, if thou wilt hearken diligently unto the voice of Yahweh, what? Not God, but thy God. Thy meaning possessive, that he is your God. He says, to observe and to do all his commandments. He didn't say some, he said all his commandments, which I command thee this day, Yahweh thy God, will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. He said this was the agreement. But he says also, go back to same chapter, Deuteronomy 28, verse 15.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Yahweh the God, to observe to do all his commandments and the statutes which I will command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
You see, so he said these curses shall overtake thee. He says, but it shall come to pass if thou wilt not hearken. If you ain't gonna listen, he said all these curses. And 46 tells you where we were. He said this will be your sign. This will be your sign to begin to unfold, to retrieve the best of yourself by knowing what you've done. That's why in Deuteronomy chapter 30 verse 1 it says here, 1 it says, go ahead.
And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, and bless and the curse.
Okay, he said, and when all these things have come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, this would be your knowledge. This would be your knowledge that you would experience the blessing, which you did because you went into the land of Canaan. You received the curse when you began to what? Break the commandments of your God. And it says, go ahead, and it said the cursing which what?
Which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mine among all the nations,
whether
the Yahweh thy God shall
has
delivered thee.
Driven thee. So he said, when you call these things to mind. See, because if we read this book right, let's go into Zechariah. Zechariah says, Zechariah tells you, Zechariah fulfills it with a beautiful statement.
Zechariah what?
Zechariah.
Chapter.
Okay. Zechariah chapter 10 verse 9.
10 verse 9.
Okay, Zechariah. Okay, wait. Zechariah 10. Wait. He got it first. Go on. Zechariah.
And oppressed.
No. Zechariah 10. Wait. Zechariah 10, 9. He got it. What?
What number is it?
Zechariah 10.
Before these.
No, wait, hold. Zechariah 10, verse 9.
Verse 9.
No. Zechariah 10,
and I will.
verse 9.
10 verse 9. And I will sow them among the people, and they shall remember me in far countries.
Yeah, see, and are we remembering him in far countries? This isn't, America is not your country. We are, where he said, you will call these things to mind. Why? Because you're the remnant. And you're beginning to, because it said the Jews saw a sign. You said, what was this sign? And what were you to do with this sign when you would receive it? Let's go into, and see, and you're remembering him in a far country. You're bringing these things back into your existence by saying, this must be me, because the description of it fits you. So when we go back to Exodus, we want to find out what was the sign. What is the sign?
Exodus what?
Okay. Everybody's up on me. Exodus 31.
31.
Exodus 31 verse starting at 12. Exodus 31. Go on.
And the Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, Spake thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, Verily my Sabbaths ye shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that ye may know that I am the Yahweh, that doeth sanctify you.
So the Shabbat is your sign. That he said, not believe. Yahweh God said, I don't want you to believe it. I want you to know that I do sanctify. So the Shabbat is a cleaning. It's a cleanser. Like you taking a bath and you washing it off. Why? Let's go into Psalm 78. Let's go to Psalm 78.
78 verse.
Wait, you ain't getting there before me.
Psalm,
wait, 78. 78. Psalm 78.
What?
Wait. Psalm 78 verse, I'm going to start at verse 7. That ye might set their hope in Elohim. It says, I'm at verse 8. Who shall arise that they may declare these things to their children? Declare these things to their children. Psalm 78 verse 6. That the generations who come might know them. Not believe them, but might know them. Who shall arise that they may declare these things to their children, that their children might set their confidence. The word is hope, but the original translation is confidence in your God. In other words, what are you going to give your children? Who? That's why it said, whom shall he give knowledge? The whom is a selective to the who shall arise. In other words, it is like we're going to wait to find out who is going to have this knowledge. Not only the knowledge, but who's going to have the knowledge and utilize it so that they may resume by teaching to their children. See, the children has to be taught because the children pass the baton to their children. The parents pass the baton to their children. Children are what? And this is how you teach your children. There's only one. In Deuteronomy chapter 6.
Deuteronomy chapter 6. Verse?
Chapter 6, verse 7.
6 verse 7.
And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thy house, when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. He says, and thou shalt diligently, but in the Hebrew it's an inculcate. This is your constant rhetoric. This is your constant to where you initiate a total, not to be relentless, but to be ever perpetual, so that this will become a welcome thought, that nothing else matters other than the conversation of keeping the commandments of Yahweh. And then, after the parent has sustained and continued the great work that he has done for his family, Yahweh says, then you no longer do anything but this to your children. He says, and thou what? Shall command thy children. In other words, you're not looking for them to give anything else, but you, who you are, should tell your children the importance of keeping this commandment, because it is not a vain thing for them. It says, I'm at Deuteronomy chapter 33. I'm at 46. And he said unto them, set your heart unto all the words which I testify among you this day, which ye shall command your children to observe and to do all the words of this law. For it is not a vain thing for you, because it is your life. These commandments is our life. That is Deuteronomy 31.
31.
If I'm not mistaken, Deuteronomy 31.
Verse 32.
Sorry. 32, verse 46 to 47. Because Yahweh God wanted to tell you, he said to you, these things that you seek, that you hope diligently, that you set your life in, you must know what pertains to you for your good. This ain't about everybody, because Yahweh says selectively, he said, for the remnant, for the individuals, what should we do to help and make sure that our commitment, and he said the Shabbat is a sign. And so when we keep the Shabbat, we're embracing the sign that our God told us. He said that you may know that I do sanctify you, I do clean you, I do make it, and you want to know, when you look at the circumstances happening in the world, you want to know what is for you. That's why he said, and they shall entreat the remnant shall be taken care of. And this is why when you read in the Apocrypha, and I love to read this, because what must be done is that you must become stable and unmovable in the direction that your God will have you go. Yahweh God don't want you to slide back, he wants you to come forward. And in coming forward, he wants to tell you, he tells you in 2nd Ezra, chapter 9, he said, verse 13, he said, and therefore be not thou curious of how the ungodly shall be punished, and when, but inquire how the righteous shall be saved. So what is important is that the righteous, this is in 2nd Ezra chapter 9, verse 13. I like to start at verse 10. For such as in their life have received benefits and have not known me. He said they received benefits, but they didn't know me. I'm at 2nd Ezra, chapter 9, verse 10. And they that have lost my Torah, while they had yet liberty, and when as yet place of repentance was open unto them, understood not, but despised it. The same must know it after death by pain. He said after they die, they're going to know this by pain. Because they had liberty during their life to repent. And he says, the same must know it after death by pain. And therefore be thou not curious. He said, don't be curious. He said, be curious how the righteous, and if we go over to show you that these times in the earth is times that Yahweh God has opened to us. I'm at Ezra, 2nd Ezra, chapter 2. And I'm at I'm going to start.
2nd Ezra, verse 2.
I'm at verse 27. It said, be not weary, for when the day of trouble and heaviness cometh, others shall weep and be sorrowful, but thou shalt be merry and have abundance. The heathen shall envy thee, but they shall be able to do nothing against thee, said Yahweh. So he says, my hand shall cover thee, so that thy children shall not see hell. So Yahweh God is saying, he's encouraging you. He's saying these days, he said, tell your children, don't set their confidence on what they see, but set their confidence in the words of Yahweh God, so that as they experience these see these hardships coming in the earth, he said, this ain't for you. This is for the others. So you must know your righteousness. That's why in the book of Ezekiel, then they said, they have made the righteous sad, whom I have not made sad. He said, I didn't make them sad, because they didn't know their righteousness. You must know your status. You must know your status. That's why he says here that this has to be constantly put in Isaiah. In Isaiah, he wants you to know. Okay. He wants you to know Isaiah 3 verse 10.
3 verse 10.
Yes. Isaiah 3 verse 10 says what?
Say ye to the right.
He says, say ye to the righteous,
that it shall be well with him, for they shall eat the fruit of their doing.
That's right. He said, I want you to tell them. I want you to encourage them. I want you to make sure that they are not discouraged, but that they're encouraged. He says, say ye to the righteous. To the righteous, that means a man must know his righteousness. And he says, say that you shall eat the fruit of your doings. And these are very important, that we teach our children and encourage ourselves that Yahweh God has all of these things under control. What is the value of suffering when it said the earth is given into the hands of the wicked? And the wicked man has plundered the earth. Therefore, what does our God has to do for us? That he may help us. And he says this very clearly. And I like to read it because he says, Psalm 125 verse 3, for the rod of the wicked shall not rest upon the lot of the righteous, lest the righteous put forth their hands unto iniquity. So Yahweh God is telling you, you must become a master at keeping of the commandments. Because when you keep those commandments, Yahweh said that the rod of the wicked shall not rest on you. And that's why Yahweh said, gather yourself together, O nation, not desire. He didn't say gather yourself together, O church, not desire, but nation. Our brother Esau, his world is coming to an end. But as it says in the Apocrypha, he said the end of Esau is the beginning of Jacob. When we see his end, it's our beginning. You know, he's pulling down his own kingdom. We're not pulling down his kingdom. He's pulling down his kingdom by his immoral acts that he has encountered in having women marrying women, men marrying men, people having and then he's going to what? Okay it in his what? Written law. That this is going to be an accepted fact by his law. You understand? And therefore, when we read, didn't the other nations destroy themselves by these ungodly acts that they participated in? So I'm saying to you, the morality of a people is the strength of a people. You can't keep people from doing things, but you don't acknowledge and encourage it to be done in your law. You know, you don't have eyes to look into eyes to look through walls, but when you see things openly, visually open, where men are walking down the street dressed up as women, and that they are having a physical encounter, these are the things you eradicate out of your community, because what? They sabotage the moral fiber of your community. You understand? We are a people that don't understand the invisible things are shaken and shaped by the very invisible things that we participate in. The physical things, the byproduct that comes from our physical action is the byproduct that is invisible, and it shapes our community, it shapes our moral fabric, and therefore it spills out into our children. it spills out all into the world, that they would participate in such ungodly behavior. So I like to end this and tell you, may Yahweh bless each and every one of us. And may the Spirit of our God, and we're going to come back and have another lesson, but right now, we like to have this prayer, and I thank everybody for listening. Yahweh God, we thank you for this day, and we pray. We pray that we may walk through the straight and narrow path. May Yahweh bless us and keep us and strengthen us. The Shabbatah, Atniga, Lakwadrisha, Yahweh, Makabada, Shama'a, Shallah, Yahweh, Allah Hayinawa, Yahweh, Akada, Yagadallah, Yahweh, Yagadallah, Allah Hayinawa. May Yahweh bless us and keep us and strengthen us. May the Spirit of our God rest upon us. Amen.
Amen.